Hi guys, German Prepper here. I cannot express to you enough how concerned I am over current events in and around Europe's eastern conflict. It would not be an exaggeration to say we are potentially well into World War III. It may not be what many expected, at least in this early phase, but there is little doubt this war is well set to continue burning on, and the stage is set for conflict on multiple fronts across the globe. I pray I and others who now believe the same are proven wrong. Here is your latest update. Ukrainian defences in Bakhmut appear to be crumbling, with Russian forces entering the eastern half of the city. Desperate Ukrainian forces are reporting that the Russians are coming from all sides. The situation in Kiev remains dire. Serhil Kavalenko, Yasno power operator CEO, gave this report. The situation in Kiev is difficult. Today, all three groups of consumers are almost completely disconnected from supplies simultaneously. The schedules naturally aren't working at the moment. In addition to all the damaged sites where repairs are ongoing, another infrastructure object was hit, due to which there is no power for a large part of the Dnipro's right bank in Kiev and in some locations across the region. All districts are suffering in the same way. Now all critical infrastructure, hospitals, water utility objects and subway has been restored, and there is electricity for somewhere around 20% of the population. It is difficult to predict how quickly we will return to stabilisation schedules. Energy repair teams at all levels simply don't make it on time to restore the functionality of the system in between the strikes. 10-hour daily blackouts are now reportedly the norm in Kiev, guys. The situation for the population is quickly turning untenable for many, and great numbers are being left with no choice but to attempt to bug out. Mikhailo Fedorov, Ukraine's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Digital Transformation, has announced Ukraine has reached a deal with Elon Musk's Space Exploration Technologies Corp to receive more than 10,000 Starlink antennas to help counter Russian airstrikes. The devices, which provide internet service beamed down from satellites, will be sent to Ukraine in the coming months. Ukraine has received approximately 22,000 Starlink antennas since the war began in February. Alexander Volfovich, Secretary of Belarus's Security Council, has announced through the Defense Ministry that the country has put its military units in the south on alert as part of surprise drills to assess the combat readiness of the armed forces. The inspections will be wide-ranging and will be conducted without prior announcement by the leadership of the armed forces. Valery Zaluzhny, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces in Ukraine, has alerted the Russian Federation Army will try to take Kiev again next year. The Russian conscription worked. It is not true that their problems are so dire that these people will not fight. They will do it. The Tsar told them to go to war, and they will go to war. I studied the history of the two Chechen wars. The same thing happened there. They may not be as well equipped, but they are still a problem for us. According to our estimates, they have a reserve of 1.2 to 1.5 million people. The Russians are training about 200,000 new soldiers. I have no doubt that they will make another attempt to take Kiev. Zaluzhny continues. He is gathering men and weapons for a new attack. Probably in January, but more likely in spring 2023. He could launch a major offensive from Donbass in the east, from the south, or even from Belarus in the north. Russian troops will seek to push back the Ukrainian forces, and could even make a second attempt to capture Kiev, the capital. Alexandru Mustita, the head of the Moldovan Information and Security Service, has released this alarming warning. The question is not whether the Russian Federation will launch a new offensive in the direction of Moldovan territory, but when it will happen. Either at the beginning of this year, in January, February, or later in March, April. But judging by the information we have, Russia can go further to create a corridor with the Transnistrian region, which is the territory of Moldova. Then it will be possible to say with clarity that yes, they intend to get here, to unite. What will follow, their intentions towards Chisinau, we can discuss, but this is a real and very high risk. Note the wording there, guys. It is not whether Moldova is to be invaded, but simply when. The ex-Soviet state knows the Russian Federation is coming for it, as I myself have warned for a long time now. The United States Embassy in Berlin has made the following announcement. The Bundeswehr's Federal Office for Equipment and Information Technology has signed a contract with the US Air Force for the purchase of 35 F-35A Lightning II fighter jets to be delivered between 2026 and 2029. That's a 3 to 6 years lead time there, guys. The German government has confirmed the sale of 18 remote-controlled howitzer 155mm or RCH 155 to Ukraine. The supplier is German defence company Krauss Maffei Wegmann. The German government will fund the purchase at a cost of €216 million, including training and spare parts. Delivery is expected to begin in over 3 years' time. Dmitry Medvedev, arguably the second most powerful man in the Russian Federation, has made another telling statement on the continuation and course of this ruinous conflict in Europe. Propaganda it might be, but I recommend listening carefully and making your own judgment on its content. On the question of legitimate military purposes. The question of legal military purposes has been interpreted in different ways in the history of mankind. It is perceived differently in the course of the current conflict with the Nazi regime in Ukraine. For example, on this topic, by the way and inopportunely, Russophobic senile people from the US Senate like to practice. However, there is something in common that lies in the customs of war and international conventions. These are the rules of conduct during the war, which originate in sacred sources. What is considered legitimate military targets today? Within the framework of the named rules of war, these are 1. Any enemy troops, legal combatants and illegal combatants who are not officially withdrawn from his armed forces. 2. Any military and auxiliary equipment of the enemy. 3. Any objects related to military infrastructure, as well as civilian infrastructure that contributes to the achievement of military goals. Bridges, transport stations, roads, energy facilities, factories and workshops, at least partially fulfilling military orders, etc. 4. The military political leadership of the enemy country. 5. The armed forces of other countries that officially entered the war, which are allies of the enemy country, and the objects located on their territory, mentioned in paragraphs 1 to 4. Today, however, there is a main question. Can the hybrid war, de facto declared by NATO to our country, be considered the entry of their alliance into the war against Russia? Can the supply of a huge amount of weapons to Ukraine be considered an attack on Russia? And accordingly, are the military goals of the North Atlantic Bloc listed in paragraphs 1 to 4 of this note? The leaders of the NATO countries sing with one voice that their countries and the entire bloc are not at war with Russia. But everyone is well aware that everything is different. That's it for now, guys. Another day, another step on the path of World War III. A question for you all now to end. Have you packaged up your preps in plastic or metal containers or totes, ready to weather the storm or quickly move with you? As always, looking forward to reading your answers. If you can, please support the channel by taking membership. It really makes a difference. Keep prepping, guys. Cheers for now.